I'm just kidding. Habibi's great. Cut that. Do not put that in. I'll never live that down.
Ravensburger Play Hub is here and it's seemingly not going anywhere. Ravensburger seems determined to make Play Hub the #1 place for all Lorcana tournaments and games to take place. But is it actually ready? We take a look at some of the tournaments from this past weekend, the release event of Fabled, talk about really just beyond Fabled, how since Play Hub has been introduced, it really has not been smooth sailing. And the biggest question of all, is it going to be ready for DLC Bologna and DLC Milwaukee next month? And if it's not, what does that mean for us as a community? Lots to talk about this time, so thanks so much for watching and enjoy the discussion. Ravensburger Play Hub is a disaster. There, I said it. Just kidding, guys, but maybe let's talk about it. So, it's not been going well, depending on who you ask. Some people say Play Hub is amazing. We're so happy to be off of Melee. Others are like, dear God, please put me back on Melee. And I do think just like, there is enough concern that it's time, I think, for us to talk about it. We're going to try our best to be nice and constructive. So hopefully, if Ravensburger is watching, they understand maybe some of the grievances that we're seeing from some of the community. But really, I think, like you've said, for example, you haven't had any issues with Play Hub. Is that correct?
That is correct. I have one problem. I have one thing I don't like about Play Hub. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, wait.
Okay. So you have you for in large part you have not had any issues with Play Hub. Unfortunately, I have had the complete opposite experience. And I mean that like not even just, I went to SSG for the release event of Fabled, and notoriously it was a 16-hour event because there was a 6-hour delay, and I'm not going to say 100% of that delay was because of Play Hub, but I would say about 5 hours of that delay was because of Play Hub. 5 of the 6 hours that we were delayed was because of Play Hub. But also even something small like Set Championships or even my locals, and I get it, at some point it's user error, but truly, like my locals, it is like hit or miss whether or not it's going to be on Melee or not. Sometimes halfway through we've had to repair on Melee and simulate all the same wins and stuff to get the same percentages. At a Set Championship, haven't been able to run it at all. Same thing, had to switch over to Melee in between. So it's been tough, right? And that's just in my experience. You also look at over in Anaheim for that release event, people were saying that California was having a lot of Play Hub issues, which SSG, Anaheim, 2 very big events, over 100 players. Then you look at the Forbidden Mountains event, to my knowledge, which had almost 100 players, 73 players, and there's no Play Hub issues. So it's really hard because I think a lot of people are just nervous about, not even about their locals, not even about Set Champs. I think we could all deal with that. Obviously, there are DLCs really on the horizon, with Bologna sometime next month, I believe, and then come October. Wow, is that also next month? Okay, so DLC Milwaukee also coming, right? And those are things that have thousands, 2,000 players. So I don't know. I think it makes sense that people are a little nervous that it's not yet ready. What do you want to say just initially to start this conversation?
Yeah, all I hear is that it sucks. It's terrible. That's all I've heard from everyone.
Right.
But yeah, it hasn't ever gone down when I've been using it. And anytime a store around here has had a problem, they mess something up.
Sure.
And then they have said, oh man, this Play Hub, it's terrible. It's their fault. And secretly, I know that it is actually the store's fault, but I never call them out on it. I'm just like, yeah, I get it, totally. But my problem with the Play Hub is that right now I can only see my first tiebreaker. And I have had the same first tiebreaker as multiple people multiple times and been on the draw in top 8. And I'm like, is it only using the first tiebreaker? Did I lose out in the second tiebreaker, the third? Seems crazy. Yeah, that's all. But those are my problems. Yeah, am I worried? Not really. There's probably going to be a backup software that they're just not going to say, because I feel like for any 2,000 person tournament, there should be. Even if that's an absolute nightmare situation of, all right, just pair people against each other who have the same record.
Oh, jeez, yeah. I think it's hard because, like, I think you're right in that a lot of the stores are, and this is where we can be fair to both, right? Because I do think, you know, SSG, for example, I can only speak to that because I was there, at least in the beginning, like when you literally have, you know, Ravensburger devs on the phone helping the store, which is great, by the way. That is like a really good sign that Ravensburger is paying attention to these issues and literally being like as on the ground as they can be from, you know, 1,000 miles away, but like helping these stores. That means that they really are like trying to make this work and trying to make this ready. But besides that, right, there are many such cases where stores are messing it up for whatever reason. TOs don't really care, you know, or whatever it is. On any given day, someone presses the wrong button, and obviously, rather than taking the fall and being like, oh, we kind of dropped the ball on this event and now we've got a delay, it is a lot easier to tell your players, oh, it's this new thing, Ravensburger Play Hub, guys, that's not us. So I do think people need to be a little skeptical, you know, of like how much negativity or how much it actually isn't working. But I do think, you know, given some of the events that we'll talk about, it makes sense why people are a little hesitant. And I think something like breakers, you know, being wrong or needing a backup software, when you're looking at something like a DLC, right, where players are competing to go to something like Worlds, you know, that it has to be perfect, right? If you are going to force us to switch to your system, it has to be ready. And something like the wrong breakers really, really can. When you're going to have only cut to top 32 and there's going to be hundreds of players with the same record, I don't actually know the math on that, but you get what I'm trying to say there. You really need to make sure that like those 32 are the 32 that are supposed to be there. You know what I mean? So I think that's why it's so important to people, I guess is what I'll say.
Yeah, I would love, especially for DLCs, I'd love paper, a way to report on paper. And yeah, it can be annoying, but typically it's not like everyone walks up, especially at an event as big as a DLC. It's not like everyone walks up to the judges station and hands in the paper. You and your opponent call a judge over when your match is over and you've signed your results slip. And then the judge will say, oh, Willoughby's beat Dick Burns 2-0. And we go, oh, that's not right. We clearly signed that backwards. But yeah, and then there's some kind of paper trail if there is an issue that the judges are able to reconstruct a round if they have to reconstruct a round. I would also love, in addition to getting our pairings pushed through the Play Hub, if they would print the pairings. I mean, I know I'm an old man, but last time I played card games competitively, there were paper pairings. And yeah, it's really annoying. But if most of the people are using their phones, then it shouldn't be that bad that people have to walk up to a pairings board and find their pairings. I think that's a really easy way to be like, hey, wait, my points are wrong. Or you know, my tiebreakers are wrong or something like that, and to physically be able to see it. I had an issue in DLC Atlanta. I probably haven't talked about it for a year, where a woman could not get the pairings on Melee. Which, by the way, do we all forget all the problems we had on Melee too?
Right. That was a nightmare.
That's like a whole other discussion of like, okay, yeah, we are hoping that this is better since it replaced Melee, but like, that's all I ever heard from every store too. Oh, Melee's just trash, so we can't cut to top 8. No, you don't know how phases works. Only like 12 people is gonna understand that.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, a woman could not get Melee to show her pairing. She walked up to a judge and was like, hey, what table am I at? And they sent her not to her table, but to like how many points she had or something, like that table or something like that. And yeah, the judge sat there with her and was like, oh, your opponent didn't show up. You win. And she was my opponent. And I was at the correct table. And I called a judge. And they're like, oh, great, your opponent didn't show up. Well, when my judge went to put it in, they had already put it in. So then they went and found her. And then they gave her a match loss for not being at the right table. even though the judge confirmed, yes, I've told her the wrong table and walked her to that table and sat there with her at that table. I ended up appealing and getting that downgraded to a game loss for her, which obviously I didn't have to do. But it was just such a really bad situation. And she wouldn't have been in that situation if we had paper pairings. So
Yeah.
that's
mean-
just one more added layer of protection, you know? It's like, why lock my front door? No one's gonna break in. And then like 1 in a million times someone breaks in.
Right. No, I agree. I think obviously paper pairings would, you know, if it was only paper pairings or submitting the ticket at the end of every round, sure, it would slow things down. But nothing's going to slow things down more than just the website not working at all and having no fail-safe
8-hour delay.
Right. And you know, I think like there is no harm, because I agree, you know, Melee was pretty bad in Atlanta in particular. But I do think, you know, they were able to go through that, and like Melee itself was able to like work that out. And so like, even if it is like if they don't tell us, but they're, you know, registering people under their usernames on Melee as well as a backup system, like just being ready for the worst. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just like people just want to see that Ravensburger is prepared and honestly doesn't drop the ball this time. And I do think that, like, you know, there's a lot of negative feelings right now, and I think there's a lot of like mistrust towards Ravensburger, and I think that, you know, getting the DLCs right, and because they are so confident in Play Hub that they launched it when they did, getting that right, I think, is really just like the first step in getting the community back on this side, back on their side, because I do think, you know, if something goes awry, or in many ways, people who love to complain, like we talk about all the time, are just waiting for something to go wrong so they can be like, finally, I have something to complain about. You know what I mean? So like, I think it's really pivotal that Ravensburger, you know, does everything that they need to do, even if it means registering everybody on Melee as well and never telling us, you know, to make sure that they're ready if the worst happens.
Hire a second scorekeeper.
Right, something. So have a guy who's dedicated to doing all those papers.
At some point, I know they know this. At some point, they need to get ahead of the ball instead of constantly chasing it.
Yeah. The only thing I will say that, you know, we have to talk about it. Obviously, everybody saw it. It is what it is. Okay, they know. So we're gonna talk about it. Okay, Kendall. No, I'm not. Prominent player in the Lorcana community, tweeted about the delays at SSG. And like I said, at least 5 of the 6-hour delay truly was Play Hub's like fault, because they had them on the phone and still it took hours from when they were like, guys, we're literally talking to Ravensburger on the phone, that it wasn't able to get fixed. So Kendall said, to no fault of their own, Southside Gaming put on an amazing event today despite all the Play Hub issues. At Disney Lorcana, the Ravensburger Play Hub is not ready to run a DLC. I would highly consider running the event on Melee unless you think the app will be in perfect condition. What was supposed to be a 7 to 8 hour event, 128 players, 7 rounds, ended up being 16 hours. If this happens at a DLC, it will be a literal nightmare. I rate Ravensburger Play Hub a 1 out of 10 only because this app won't let me leave 0 stars. Okay, I get it. Kendall was a little heavy-handed. Kendall was laying it on a little thick, right? So
dude, I love Kendall's personality.
No, I think it was great. He didn't sugarcoat it. That's how he feels. That's his right. I get it. You know, maybe Ravensburger wasn't happy to see, I'd give it 0 stars if I could, and you know, please do it on Melee instead. I get it. That's now a competitor, assuming, you know, since they're working with Card.io or whatever. But the point is that like behind, you know, the actual like opinionated stuff was the facts of like, hey, I am like a top player who's played many of your events. I really don't think this is ready to fire. And here's why, right? Here is a company that you are directly working with. You gave extra pricing to incentivize them to use Play Hub, and it is still not ready even when you had your guys on the phone. This is not ready, right? And we have someone from Play Hub, Rex, here with the response that everybody has seen by now, that says, we successfully ran a 1,900 person stress test recently. We're not too concerned with running a DLC. So obviously everybody was not happy with that response. It has since been changed to a very corporate response saying thank you, and we are looking into your feedback.
Wait, no, that's right. I didn't even see that they changed it or anything. I heard it's gone.
They did change it, yeah.
Hey, is this not a Dick Burns text back? Like,
Yeah.
dude, this is how I met Dan. Like, literally, Dan like made a whole video, and I commented. I said, "This video is irrelevant," but I didn't mean it in a mean way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have, dude, I'm telling you, I have this same exact problem. Read any of my tweets, especially my responses, because I am very tone deaf on the internet. And I really am not being mean when I respond to people with things, right? And I'll like text you back about something and you'll be like, listen, I know you, so I'm not gonna smack you next time I see you. You know, you're like, I know exactly what you mean, and what you mean is exactly what you said. But it sounds passive aggressive when it doesn't mean to be, right?
Right.
So the first time I read this, I'm gonna be Rex for a second.
Sure.
Okay. Sure. Hey man, I appreciate it, but we did just run a stress test and that went well. So like, I appreciate you bringing this up to me, but at the moment, I'm not that concerned about it. We're gonna look into it going forward. That is like all I heard in my head when I read when I read that response.
Right.
And I'm like, why are people mad? Like, that was so nice of Rex.
To acknowledge.
I can't even get Greg to say my name. And Rex responded. So it's so funny, and people are gonna be like, company shill. Nah, Ravensburger sucks. I'm not a company shill. But like, I really feel like I would have meant how I just read it and wrote it just like this.
Yeah. So definitely, I think like what Dick is highlighting here is that like things can be misconstrued or miscommunicated when it is over text. And obviously, like Rex going out of their way to respond to this at all shows that like they are listening to the feedback. And I do think, do I think that it was maybe a little ill-timed, maybe could have been a little more thought behind, what they were trying to say to let everybody know, like, guys, we are looking into it. Yeah. I don't think that like Rex literally was blowing Kendall off and being like, I don't care about this at all. But I do think, impact over intent, of course. And, at the end of the day, when you have a bunch of, like I said, people who are kind of burned, by Ravensburger right now, what they really just wanted to hear is like, you're so right. You're so right. We will fix it.
I've got a great example. Sure. If Habibi wrote this, I'd be like, oh yeah, he's being mean. He's being rude.
Why?
Right? Why? Because Habibi's a jerk. Okay. That's why.
All right, sure.
Ask anyone.
I don't know that man, but okay.
What wow. No one does. Okay. If we're being honest. Oh, but anyway, even Rochelle gets into it on Twitter with Habibi. She makes fun of him all the time. He's really easy to make fun of, to be honest. Go follow Habibi on Twitter and just make fun of him. He really enjoys it.
Oh my god.
I'm not even kidding.
He's kidding. That's bullying and harassment.
I'm not kidding at all.
Oh my god.
But if Zan wrote this response, I would read it exactly how I said it earlier, because Zan's a robot, right? So it's like, of course that would be his response. You know what I mean? So yeah, we don't know Rex's personality, and obviously Zan's not a robot. Okay, but anyway.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god. Yeah. Okay. You're done.
All.
We're done. Thank you, Mr. Burns, for giving us things that cannot stay in the video. All right. So basically, look, we're keeping an eye on it. I hope Ravensburger is keeping an eye on it. I hope they prove us wrong and that they are pushing Play Hub so hard, because it truly, truly is going to be ready come DLC season. And I mean, really, it just remains to be seen what's going to happen with that. The biggest thing is, I think, utilizing the Play Hub feedback section on Discord. This is not me like shilling and being like, guys, make sure to report your feedback the way that they said to, but it's being like they're actually reading it, right? And like they are doing the stress test. So they're showing us that they are trying. And I think it's important that we remember that aspect of it and not get preemptively angry. Every single hiccup helps them get closer to having it, straightened out. So I'm sipping the Ravensburger Kool-Aid, okay? Hoping fingers crossed that they work it out, and if they don't, surely we will make another video about it. But give it some time, and hopefully, you know, if anybody from Ravensburger is listening to this, you can kind of see where the community is getting a little nervous, just given, like you said, getting ahead of it instead of chasing it. So I think that's it from us. Anything else you want to add that's appropriate and not gonna make fun of anybody?
Oh no, I wanted to make fun of people.
Oh, okay.
One, Ravensburger has a Discord.
What?
They have a Discord?
That's like the only place they communicate at all.
Oh, I haven't heard that 27 times every Thursday that you should go join their Discord. That's so weird. And you're keeping an eye on things. I'm keeping 2 eyes on things.
Boom.
And that's all from us.
All right, guys, that's going to be it from us. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and of course, leave your comments down below. We love to know how you guys are feeling about all of this stuff. Last thing I'll say is, in lieu of 500 subscribers, we now have channel memberships. For only $2 a month, you can support this channel. Really just a way to say, hey, we love the work that you guys are doing. Keep it up. And as a thank you for that, we will put your name at the end of every video, as well as 1 video a month will be a members only YouTube video or live stream, where we might do things like Q&As, you know, things we don't really want to talk about on the main channel, but we just kind of want something, you know, for members only. It's just a little secret club, okay, for some of you guys that just kind of want to show some support and that you love the channel. We also have a $5 tier for those of you that you don't get any extra perks, but it's just like, hey, love what you guys do. So if you're interested in that, we'd really appreciate it. I mean, the world to us. But besides that, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you in the next one. Peace.